You can always tell when you're the one they whisper about. Riley came through our front door at 3:45 p.m. on a Tuesday, tears streaming down her face and her textbooks clutched against her chest. "Mom, it happened again. They called me dumb." Her voice cracked as she let her backpack fall by the door. The Blackwoods had organized an advanced study group and invited the whole class, but told her she wasn't smart enough the moment she mentioned I went to public school instead of private, leaving her standing there with her textbooks while everyone else headed inside. Just another day of my 14-year-old being humiliated because Monica Blackwood and her crew decided we weren't Riverside Heights material. I stared out the window of our small home on Oak Lane, watching the neighbors load their vehicles with university alumni decals for after-school enrichment programs. Monica Blackwood was always the loudest about her family's academic achievements and her advanced degrees. Each day after school, I watched those families shuttle to elite tutoring sessions, their luxury SUVs covered in honor student stickers and ask about my child's say T-scores magnets. And every afternoon I listened to Monica's crew discuss families like ours who clearly don't have the intellectual foundation for such communities. If only they knew. But Riley only knew I did background investigations from home. She had no idea about the federal nature of what I analyzed. I'd kept everything simple, quiet, normal. Just mom and daughter starting fresh after the divorce. No mention of my advanced degrees, clearance level, or the kind of analysis I actually do. I believe staying under the radar would give Riley a real shot at making friends. I was so wrong. But what they didn't realize was that every detail of their academic credentials crossed my desk for verification. Quick favor before we move on. Over 90% of people watching right now haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying this story, tap that like button and hit subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it means the world to us. Already subscribed? You're the best. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to it. Monica Blackwood and the rest of the Blackwood family ruled Riverside Heights Middle School like an academic gatekeeper. Wire-rimmed glasses, perfectly pressed blazers, a different university-branded tote every day. Today's featured her alma mater in understated gold lettering. She drove a spotless Volvo with personalized plates celebrating her MBA and made sure everyone knew about her children's test scores and accelerated placement. Her daughter Madison was a carbon copy, equally arrogant, condescending, and utterly convinced she was intellectually superior to everyone else. I first met Monica during school pickup in September. She introduced herself as Madison's mom, then casually slipped in that she had an MBA from Harvard, her husband did research at MIT, and Madison was already enrolled in early prep courses for the Ivy League. "And you must be the family receiving aid, Monica said, looking me up and down like I was a thesis with obvious flaws. Oak Lane is such a diverse address. We were wondering who qualified for assistance this year." The other mothers nodded knowingly. Jennifer Walsh, her Northwestern alumna jacket pristine, chimed in. The previous scholarship family also struggled to keep up academically. "Well," Monica continued, adjusting her vintage reunion pin, "I'm sure you'll find your level here. We're very accepting of different educational paths." Different educational paths. Like I was some remedial case. I could have ended this conversation right then and there. One mention of my security clearance, one reference to my graduate-level analytical work, and Monica's condescending smile would have evaporated. But something held me back. "What's your background?" asked Jennifer Walsh, leaning forward like she was conducting an oral exam. "I work from home," I said simply. "Background investigations?" The silence was sharp. Monica's smile, sharper. "Oh my, that must be fulfilling. I mean, especially in a neighborhood like this where families tend to have more substantial careers." She gestured vaguely at the other mothers. "Jennifer runs the district's Youth Neuroscience Enrichment Program, and I consult for Fortune 500 companies on strategic initiatives." "We manage," I replied. "I'm sure you do your best, dear. Single motherhood must be overwhelming. Though I have to say, it's ambitious of you, moving somewhere that requires, well, certain qualifications. She tilted her head. Has Riley been tested for academic placement yet? Some children need extra support to reach grade-level expectations. Qualifications, like I was pretending to be something I wasn't intellectually. But soon they'd learn exactly what qualifications I was pretending not to have. The exclusion started immediately. Academic enrichment events that Riley wasn't invited to. Honor Society study sessions she heard about but wasn't included in. Group emails about merit scholarship information that somehow skipped my address. But it was worse than simple exclusion. It was systematic intellectual bullying. The first incident happened during advanced math. Riley came home with her homework unfinished, eyes red from crying. What happened, baby? Madison and her friends were forming study groups, Riley whispered. They said I probably couldn't handle honors courses because my mom never attended an Ivy League school. Then they told the teacher I needed to drop down to regular math because kids from unstable educational environments can't keep up with rigorous curricula. My hands clenched so hard I felt my nails dig into my palms. But that wasn't even the worst part, Riley continued, her voice breaking. During class discussion about college prep strategies, Mrs. Patterson called on me to answer a question about financial aid options. When I started to respond, she cut me off mid-sentence and said, "Maybe this topic is too advanced for some students. Let's circle back to something more basic." The whole class went silent. Madison smirked. Everyone knew she was talking about me. Riley's hands were shaking now. I sat by myself during academic planning afterward. Mrs. Patterson asked if we had the resources for test prep materials. What was I supposed to say? That my classmates assume I'm not smart because we don't broadcast our achievements? The heat in my chest was instant. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was fury. Fury that a 14-year-old had to carry this kind of academic shame. Fury that I'd stood there smiling at those mothers when all I wanted to do was tear their perfect little ivory tower apart. The second incident was worse. Riley came home and went straight to her room. "How was your day, sweetheart?" "At lunch today," Riley said. I sat down at the table with everyone else. Madison looked at me and said, "Sorry, no open seats, even though there were 3. Then they all picked up their trays and moved to the other side of the cafeteria. They didn't even wait for me to leave. I knelt beside her, watching my daughter disappear before my eyes. She'd stopped participating in class discussions. Hands trembled when she spoke. She flinched when teachers called on her. That night, I held her as she sobbed into my shoulder. Her body felt smaller in my arms, like the weight of it all was slowly wearing her down. "Mom, I miss our old school. I know you have work here, but I can't. I can't keep trying to prove I'm smart enough when they've already decided we're not." As I held my crying daughter, I felt something shift inside me. I'd tried to protect her by hiding who we really were intellectually. Instead, I'd exposed her to a cruelty I had the power to stop. The third time, something cracked inside me. Riley came home holding her hoodie in her arms like she was trying to hide it. She didn't say anything, just looked down, like she was embarrassed to be seen with it. "Riley, what's wrong?" They cornered me after Honor Society, Madison and 2 of her friends smirking like they'd rehearsed it. Riley's voice cracked. They said, "Your mom probably went to community college. That's why you never wear anything with a real school name on it." She looked down, twisting the edge of her sleeve. Then Madison pointed at my hoodie and said it looked like something from a gas station. I laughed like it didn't bother me. Her voice dropped. But when I got to class, there was a note on my desk that said, "Donation box chic." I didn't say anything, just shoved my hoodie in my backpack and pretended I wasn't cold the rest of the day. My vision flashed white. These children, these cruel, privileged children, were destroying my daughter's spirit with lies, while I held advanced degrees that qualified me to analyze threats they couldn't even comprehend. And then Madison pushed my books out of my hands. They scattered all over the hallway floor. My notes, my homework, everything. Riley's voice was barely a whisper. "Stay in your lane with the underachievers," she sneered. As my daughter scrambled to gather her papers, kids walked by like she wasn't even there. The image of my daughter crawling across that hallway floor, while other kids stepped around her like she was invisible, snapped something in me. "Mom, I wanted to defend us, but I didn't know how. What if she's right? What if we really don't belong here?" Her voice wasn't just scared. It was starting to believe them. That night, Riley asked if we could transfer schools. I held her as she cried herself to sleep, and I made a decision. Tomorrow, everything would change. Meanwhile, Monica's campaign against us intensified with every passing day. It started with the parent email chain. I only learned about it when another mother, Lisa Rodriguez, accidentally forwarded me a message meant for someone else. The chain was called Riverside Academic Excellence Committee and had 38 members. I wasn't one of them. The messages were surgical in their cruelty. "Monica, just a reminder about Sophia's National Merit Scholar Celebration this weekend. Please confirm RSVPs so I can coordinate the caterers. Jennifer, should I include the new family? Monica, the aid recipients? Let's maintain our standards. You understand the importance of intellectual compatibility." More screenshots trickled in from guilty mothers. Monica was orchestrating an educational siege. "Monica, I'm concerned about certain families at school. We need to protect our children's learning environment." "Jennifer, what do you mean specifically?" "Monica, some families move into neighborhoods where they don't really fit academically, thinking proximity will elevate their children. All it does is dilute the classroom experience." Every Saturday, like clockwork, Monica would find me in the produce aisle, like she knew my schedule. "Oh, Sarah," she'd say loud enough for half the store to hear. "Still working that background proofreading job? Very practical." Then she'd smile sweetly. "At my firm, you need advanced degrees to even interview, but everyone contributes in their own way." People nearby would glance over and nod, quietly agreeing with every word. But one Saturday, an older woman at the checkout line had heard enough. "Excuse me," she said firmly, turning to Monica. "My daughter does data entry. She put me through cancer treatment on that job, kept food on our table, and raised 2 kids who are now doctors. Maybe you should think twice before talking down to people." Monica's face flushed red. She mumbled something about being misunderstood and hurried away with her cart. The older woman squeezed my shoulder gently. "Keep your head up, honey. Work is work." I thanked her, but inside I felt a mix of gratitude and guilt. Here was someone defending me based on what she thought I was, while I stood there hiding who I really was. Other times, Monica would corner me with different tactics. "You know, we should really include you sometime. Our book club analyzes contemporary policy and postgraduate research. Probably beyond your experience level, but diversity of perspective has its place." Each word was chosen to cut, to establish hierarchy, to remind everyone listening exactly where I stood in her world. The cruelest part was how she recruited allies. Monica had a gift for making other mothers complicit in her cruelty by framing it as educational protection. "I'm worried about Riley," she told Jennifer Walsh at pickup loud enough for me to hear. "Poor thing seems so overwhelmed academically. It must be difficult when your mother can't provide the same intellectual foundation as families with proper educational backgrounds." Jennifer nodded sympathetically, her Columbia University cardigan catching the afternoon light. "Children need cognitive stimulation," Monica continued. "When parents lack advanced education, kids always suffer. Maybe Riley would benefit from exposure to more academically rigorous families. Like mentorship, but social." She was painting herself as Riley's intellectual savior while using pity as a weapon. Every day, those mothers talked like their kids were training for the Olympics. One swore by neuroscience podcasts for toddlers. Another bragged about Mandarin immersion and competitive fencing. Monica would glance over at us and say loudly, "Some families just don't have the same academic opportunities, especially when the parents never made it past community college." Then she'd drop the line for everyone nearby. Some moms just bounce from one job to the next, pretending they're doing something impressive, while their kids fall further behind. Divorce always stunts development, especially without real intellectual support at home. Probably just another certificate program scrambling to keep up. Every day, I watch those families coordinate their children's advanced courses and academic competitions. And every day, I listen to Monica dismiss working-class intelligence like it was some inherited deficiency. I'd stand by the pickup curb, coffee in hand, watching the preparations while Monica's voice carried across the parking lot in her designer blazer. "Sarah's type just moves from job to job. Some people don't realize their limitations get passed down, and those kids suffer for it. People like that don't belong in schools like this." I got in my car and drove off. She was mocking my decision to put my daughter's emotional well-being, our independence, and our resilience first, while still relying on my expertise to confirm the very credentials she used to prop up her fake intellectual superiority. One morning, I was on a secure video call reviewing classified intelligence reports when I saw Monica on the sidewalk with 3 other moms. Their college hoodies, alumni pins, and branded coffee tumblers were all on display, like a walking resume parade. Monica pointed toward our house and said, "This kind of instability is damaging. It sets the wrong example. Madison's been anxious about being exposed to academic mediocrity. I'm considering petitioning the school board to set minimum educational standards for enrollment." I could have walked out right then and introduced myself properly, could have told them exactly who I was. But honestly, watching Monica bury herself in her own arrogance was far more satisfying than any reveal I could have scripted. The next morning, the call came from school. "Security incident. Armed intruder reported in the area. All parents were required for immediate controlled pickup." I was in the middle of reviewing federal case files from my secure workstation when my phone rang. "Ms. Thompson? Riverside Heights is on lockdown. You need to come right away." I muted the federal case review, apologized to my team, and grabbed my keys. I didn't have time to change. I went exactly as I was, in a black sweater, jeans, and driving my old Camry. 20 mothers stood huddled near the school entrance, their designer tote bags clutched like life preservers, panic in their voices, Ivy League logos on full display. Monica was at the front, pressed blazer, polished heels, gesturing wildly and discussing protocols she clearly didn't understand. Then my car pulled up. Not a sound. Every head turned, not because of the Camry, because of what happened next. The school's head of security looked overwhelmed as he stepped forward. "Parents, we need to establish a controlled perimeter while we confirm the all clear with local law enforcement." That's when my training kicked in. "Sir," I said, stepping forward, voice calm but firm. "What's your current threat level? Do you have eyes on the breach? Are responding units on site or still en route?" He blinked. We're still waiting for police." "Are internal doors secured?" I continued. "What's your head count? Why are these parents clustered in an open zone instead of secondary staging?" Everything stopped. The mothers stared. This wasn't community college Sarah. This was someone who knew exactly what to do. 2 officers approached through the crowd. "We're looking for whoever's leading crowd control." "That would be me," I said, stepping forward. "Do you need support on controlled evacuation, or are we maintaining defensive posture?" The senior officer paused. "Ma'am, are you military or federal?" I didn't look at Monica. I didn't have to. "FBI," I said, calm and steady. "I'm a federal agent, background investigation specialist." I reached into my wallet and handed over my credentials. The officer straightened. Agent Thompson. Thank God you're here. Would you be willing to coordinate the parent side while we secure the building? Already on it, I said. For the next 20 minutes, I directed traffic, organized identification checkpoints, and assigned evacuation routes. I spoke in clipped, decisive language, standard protocol. Secondary zone clears first. All exits covered. Maintain radio contact. Keep visual on the far gate. Monica stood frozen. At one point, her tote slipped off her shoulder. She didn't pick it up. Jennifer Walsh lowered her phone. She'd stopped pretending not to stare. Even the principal looked stunned. When Riley finally emerged from the building, she spotted me immediately. I was standing beside a patrol car, coordinating units by name and code. She stopped mid-step. "Mom," she whispered as I pulled her into my arms. "What are you doing?" "Just helping, sweetheart," I said softly. "Let's get you home." By Friday, the whispers had started. Jennifer Walsh approached me at pickup, a lot less confident in her crisp alumni sweatshirt. "Sarah, I hope you don't mind me asking, what kind of data entry do you actually do?" Riley stood beside me, head high now, hands steady, no shame in her eyes, just curiosity in Jennifer's. I smiled politely. "I conduct federal background investigations, employment history, educational credentials, things people usually hope no one ever checks." Jennifer blinked. Monica, standing a few feet away, had gone very still. "I cross-check graduation records," I added, looking right at her. "You'd be amazed how many people would panic if their claims were actually verified." Monica's face went pale. "For example," I said lightly, "there was a major delay in conferring degrees at Harvard Business School in 1998. Just a detail I happen to remember. In security work, small details like that matter." I turned toward Riley. "Anyway, we should get going. I have some data to review tonight." As we walked to the car, I heard one of the mothers murmur, "Wait, is she saying Monica never even graduated?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The shift was immediate. Within days, Riley's bullies had flipped, suddenly eager to sit with her in study groups, laugh at her jokes, include her in everything. But Riley had changed too. The next time Madison tried one last jab, Riley didn't flinch. She just said, "My mom works for the FBI. What does your mom do, besides pretend to be smart?" Madison's mouth fell open, no comeback ready for the first time in her life. 6 months later, Riley was accepted into the district's most competitive gifted program. The Blackwoods quietly moved away after Monica's consulting business collapsed. Turns out someone finally decided to verify her credentials. Word got back to us through Jennifer Walsh. Monica had confided to another mother before she left, wondering aloud how she'd misjudged us so completely. How had she been so blind to who we really were? The shame in her voice was unmistakable. Ignorance had finally met its match. As I picked Riley up from her first week in the new program, she asked, "Mom, why didn't you just tell them who you were?" I thought about that. About how easily people reveal their character when they think you have nothing to offer. "Because I wanted you to see who they really are," I told her, "and who you are, without needing to prove anything." She smiled, then squeezed my hand. "Here's what I've learned. You don't need a seat at their table. When you built the damn room they're sitting in. True intelligence speaks for itself. Calmly, quietly, and always in the end."